So I'm back in my studio this week after last week's session and have some inspiration. I am looking at my piece from last week, and I did some sketching on my iPad, looking at my roots and looking at my inspiration and trying to move forward through this series that came after I just showed up last week and decided to be here in spite of my feelings of dread of not wanting to get in here and my creative block, whatever it is that I'm experiencing right now. I can't really put words to it, and I'm not sure what it is. If it's just processing the last few months, this season, the weather, there could be so many things that play into our drought creatively. But here I am again, working through my ideas and, taking a look at the things that I have around me to kind of move forward. And I'm cleaning up and kind of putting things in perspective and trying to gather my things. And I often look at my palettes as I, start to get ready for a new session. I was about to throw that one away, and I just couldn't do it. It was too pretty of a color. But I'm now thinking through my next step in this piece. And while the first piece was talking about the in-between, now I'm talking about preparing the soil. And I'm thinking that there'll be a little bit more green, possibly, because the ground is thawing. And as I think about our farmers in our community prepping the ground for the planting season, they till it. They break up the ground. They nurture it with feed and all different kinds of things to prepare that soil for the planting. We won't see any real blooming for quite some time, any growth for quite some time. But the preparing of the soil is so very important. And that's what I'm doing for myself through these projects. And that's what we need to do for ourselves in life as well. Sometimes we have to nurture things within us to really see the growth later on. And so I am preparing the soil for this piece, for myself, for my creativeness. And I've got a 12 by 16 canvas out here. And I'm really trying to kind of grasp my idea on canvas. And I've got these, and of course these are abstract, but I'm thinking about how they till the soil and they make the rows, and the ground is just kind of churned up a little bit so that there can be moisture and nutrients, and it can be prepared to receive, what they're trying to do as they begin to prepare for planting. And so that's kind of what I'm sketching out right now. I've just got a soft pastel pencil, and I'm just trying to kind of get my thoughts down on how I can make this come to life. And again, I'm creating in a series, so I'm going to keep things somewhat similar and yet different. I start using some different materials, different supplies. I'm feeling a little bit more confident about creating. And all of that will naturally happen as we begin to kind of push forward and push through some of that dark ground. And as the thawing begins, more ideas come. And I'm not completely out of my creative block. I'm still working through it. It's still a fight. And yet here I am, because I've got these ideas from last week from just showing up. And so I've gathered my papers again. I've gone through all of my things, and all of those steps are really, really important as we begin to create whatever we're creating, whether it's a scribble or not. Looking through those things, looking at the palette, looking at, different words or patterns, all of those things can spark more of an idea of where we will go as we create. And so all of that, I believe, is nurturing the soul, is nurturing our creative response to what we have in front of us, to what we're feeling. And so every single piece of paper, I'm walking the story through my head as I choose my things. And so it's all really, really important, especially when we're in that place of, what do I do? How do I start? You start by doing the next right thing, by choosing the next right paper, by finding that next right word. Whether it shows, whether it becomes a focal point, all of those pieces are telling the story of how we got here, of how we got to this piece. And I get asked so often, why do you cover up the papers? They'll be covered up, and yet they're vital to the process, just like nurturing the soul. All of the steps that I'm taking leads to the growth, to the process, to the end result. Just like when I think about our farmers planting or preparing the soil, we see them working out there, but we don't see the results for months. It's all part of the process. All those things that are not seen create beauty, create growth. All of those papers that are put down through the process create the piece and the story that is going on in my head. And so never, ever discount the process. It's all there as we create. It's all part of who we are. It's all part of who and what the piece is. And even the mistakes, even the wrong colors, even the wrong materials are part of that story. And they're so, so very important. I'm taking so much time putting the papers down because I need that time to talk to myself. I need that time to work through what is it that I want to convey in this piece. There's a story to be told, and I want to tell it to myself and to whoever looks at it. And so I'm painstakingly putting down little bits and colors and different papers. And it's all so important. I chose color this time in my papers, but I chose transparent. Most of them are transparent because I want those layers underneath to be seen right now, at least. And I'm using my matte, fluid matte medium to put all of my things down. And I'm choosing lots of different papers and palette papers and scrap papers and everything that tells a story. Even the dark piece that I'm trying to find the right spot. It feels like this boulder in the dirt that might cause some trouble as we're preparing the soil. And sometimes that's what it feels like with our emotions and the things around us that keep us from creating. So every single thing tells my story, whether you see it or not. It's so incredibly vital to the process. Well, hello, loves, and happy Sunday to you. I am thoroughly enjoying this process that has happened joyfully, unexpectedly. Last week's video was the beginning of this excitement, me breaking through this kind of creative block, I guess. I don't typically experience creative block necessarily. It's just a lack of wanting to show up. And maybe that's creative block. I don't know. But you saw last week that once I did show up, what happened. And now I'm really excited. And so I can't wait to share the rest of this project with you and the series that I have come up with. And it just goes to show how just showing up makes a difference. And it doesn't have to be a series. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece. That's not what I'm trying to convey. I'm trying to convey that even when we don't feel like the creative juices are flowing, we can do something. And of course, we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to rest, and we need to honor that kind of in-between time. And yet, even in the in-between time, we can do something. So today, I'm continuing on that journey of last week's project to this one. And so I got on my iPad and I, sketched out a couple things, which I've already kind of gone over with you. And I have some really great ideas, and I'm really, really excited. So I have six pieces that I have titles for. And I love when I have the titles for them first, because it really influences how I create. So last week was the in-between. This week is preparing the soil. Number 3 is the planting. Number 4 is emerging. Number 5 is finding sunlight. And number 6 is nurture. And the analogy of all of those things that go along with our creativity, not even just creativity, our walk here on earth, is that there's always this kind of season. As I began to kind of really grab hold of the thought of, this whole series and really what it meant, it is the season that I tend to go through at least once a year, usually after the new year. And I'm not sure why that is, but each one has such a significant meaning. And so today is preparing the soil. And so as I finish putting my piece together, you've seen what I've done already. I'm thinking about, because we live in somewhat of a rural community, and we have fields, wheat fields, and soybean field. We have fields all over the place. And I watch the prep that happens before the actual harvest. And there's a lot of work that goes into it. And there's a lot of work that goes into us growing creatively. And even just a lot of work for us getting any kind of creative spark. We have to tend to our ground. We have to tend to the roots that are in there, that want to grow, that want to come out of that dark place and want to reach for the sunlight and want to just grow and bloom. And that's what this series is all about. And it's so good for my soul. And I hope that it will encourage you. And I'll explain more as I go along. Last week I didn't talk, except I did a voiceover. I just needed to be here because I fought myself so hard. I was like, I don't want to. I even thought about, well, maybe I just skip Sunday. And every time I show up, it always gives me something. And I want to encourage you to do that today. So on this piece, I have all of my papers down here, and this is a 12 by 16 canvas, and I have laid them out somewhat strategically, which is not too typical for me because I like to just kind of put it down and let it happen. But all of these different things have some meaning to the piece, like even just like this ruler. There is some sense of measure to tending to the soil. There is a plan to tending to the soil. And this says cultivate, culture, agriculture, horticulture. I mean, all these bits that I found as I was looking. Up here it says example, choice, rejoice, annoy, enjoy. Kind of our process of creativity. We have to choose to show up. We can rejoice in that. It can be annoying. All these little bits. As I started looking through my magazine, I found. And like, don't miss this. Don't miss this opportunity right now, Shawn, to show up and follow this creative path. So often we can second guess ourselves. Like, yeah, you don't have time to do a series. Nobody's going to like it. Blah, 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 blah. You put in the words that might show up for you. And those things certainly happen for me too. But I don't want to miss this opportunity to really follow this path, because part of this is nurturing my soul. It's nurturing those roots. This part that I'm sharing with you and will continue to share with you over the next couple of weeks is really honestly for me, and hopefully you will get some benefit from it. So I've put everything down, and I definitely wanted the transparent layers so that some of the papers would show through, and I did that on purpose. And then I'm going to build on these layers. But I'm also thinking about different shapes and different ways that I can represent the tilling of the soil, the preparation of the soil, the fertilizer, the nutrients that goes down on the ground, so that when the roots start to bloom, when my roots start to take hold and grow and all those kinds of things, then it will give it a healthy place to grow. And part of that is, rest and relaxation and doing things that inspire you. So I'm going to continue on this layer. I'm going to be using a lot of the same supplies that I used last week. I've got my high flows out here, and quinacridone, nickel azo gold, transparent brown oxide. I do have some Payne's gray out here because I'm getting low on my Nova Color Payne's gray, which I need to order more of. This is Golden's, which is another favorite of mine. And then I also have, my other carbon black, titanium white, sepia, sap green, burnt sienna, all those colors that I used last week. And so I'll be working from my reference from last week's project. And my colors will shift and change, and the feel of it will change, and the shape of the ground will change. This kind of was representing my roots and that kind of mound, and I have my roots still out here to remind me, to inspire me. And so, and I may end up adding more papers and different things like that as I go along. But I want each one to tell its own story. And that's what I'm hoping for. So, not a whole lot of complicated things. I do have some stencils out that I plan on using. I'm not exactly sure how that will go, if I will use them all or not, but what I use will be on sale this week. So I've got positive words. This is abstract squares or something like that. Urban words and the kind of messy scribbles. And then just all of my scraps. I think that's all the stuff. Okay, so I'm just taking you along on my creative journey to finding my way back to blooming and I typically will have idea after idea after, like I just don't have enough time for ideas. I have books of ideas. And right now it's been a real struggle. And so I'm really excited about the direction of this and how much joy I'm getting from it. And sometimes, when we create something like this, it doesn't, I don't know what the word is, but when we're feeling uncreative, when we're feeling in that in-between place, sometimes that in-between place doesn't just go away. It's a slow movement. And that's another reason why I like the analogy of the soil, because like when you saw me last week running the roots underwater because it was so frozen, sometimes that's what this feels like. Finding my way back is like being running under hot water and slowly unfreezing. And that's what's happening for me right now. And I love that, and I'm grateful for it. And I can't wait to see what actually emerges, what actually blooms, and what actually happens from this. But it wouldn't have started unless I came here and did something, even if it was just cleaning. So, all right, my loves. By the time you see this video, today will be the last day for the membership. The last day to sign up for the membership. The doors will close. Today is the last day. And then also a new workshop will be coming out called Mixed Media Mantras. Now, if you're a member, that is included in the membership. But if you're not a member, that will be available to you at early bird pricing. So both of those things are happening. And I think that's it. So thank you for letting me take you on this journey. And I hope it nurtures your soul. All right, my loves, I'm going to finish this up. But I also want you to remember how important your creative time and you are to the creative space. You and your creativity is important. And so make sure to nurture that as well. I hope that your Sunday is restful and peaceful. And I hope that you always, always know that you are loved.